Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
No. I am your father.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
You're listening to After the Ending, the only film podcast where we tell you what happens after the ending of your favorite films. And now, here are your hosts, Mike Spring and Phil Edwards.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to After the Ending. My name is Mike Spring.
And I'm Phil Edwards.
And we are live if you are watching live. And if you are listening or watching after the fact, we are less live than we are if you're watching or listening live. But this is our new gig. If you're listening after the fact, we are recording live every other Monday at 5 p.m. U.S., 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Is that what you call it, Phil?
Yeah, GMT or British time, British summertime.
Sure.
Yeah.
There you go. So you guys can join us and participate. If you've been listening recently, you've heard us reading out some comments. And if you've been watching, you've seen us put people on screen. So we like to have some interactive, comments and stuff like that. Makes it a lot of fun. But even if we don't, we're here to bring you the usual After the Ending shtick, if you will. Phil, tell people what we're talking about in our episode. And why don't you tell them about our we finally decided on a name for our A and B episodes. Why don't you fill people in?
Yeah, well, this episode is going to be the main one. It's going to be called The Main Feature. And the next one, which will be broadcast after this one, is going to be post-credits.
There you
go.
For
this one, we're going to be going after the ending of John Carpenter's 1988 film They Live, and also discussing the recent Oscar and BAFTA awards, which took place a week or so ago, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I think the Oscars were just last week, and the BAFTAs maybe the week before or a couple weeks before. But for the those of you who don't know the BAFTAs, it's the British Film Awards, and those of you who don't know the Oscars, it's the American Film Awards. And I think they were pretty similar this year, as I recall. But we're going to get into that. We're going to do our little current topical discussion about that, just sort of what we thought, if we thought much of anything, and share some opinions on anything that has to do with that. But before that, we're going to go after the ending of a true cult classic in every sense of the word, They Live. Okay. Phil, go ahead. What do you got to say?
Before we go any further, though, if you are watching this live on Facebook, you can comment on the post, the video you're watching, and we'll be able to see the comment. And as long as it's relevant and no swearing, we'll be able to put it up on the screen and share it, and so you can get into any discussion or comments on whatever we're talking about.
Yeah, please do, especially as we get into talking about the Oscars and stuff like that. In our post-credits episode, we're going to do our top 5 list. Those are great things to comment on. We like to read them out loud. We like to put you on screen and get your face up on screen a little bit. So please do feel free to interact and comment. It is one of the things we like about doing this show live and on video now, as opposed to just as a podcast, is we really do get a new layer of interactivity that we didn't get before with the podcast, where we just recorded in our little isolated bubbles and then we put it out for the world to hear. So this is last week we had a lot of great comments, a lot of people jumping in and joining us, which was a ton of fun. So please do feel free to jump in and tell us what you think. So They Live. Phil, what do you think of They Live?
It's one of my favorites. I mean, I'm a big fan of John Carpenter, and if you can see over there,
there it is. Nice.
An Obey picture with a Lego alien. I can't remember the name of the artist, I'm afraid, but it's there. I remembered I had it. I took it off the wall. Sorry, it's hard with the camera. It was up there, but I've moved it here for now, as we're talking about the film.
I used to have
I love the film. I always liked the concept, and it was, it's one of my favorites of John Carpenter's.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine too. I used to have the Obey T-shirt, actually, not the Lego, but just the Obey with the alien, the alien face. And I'm the same as you, big John Carpenter fan. I love They Live. It's fun, it's actiony, it's a little silly, but also kind of subversive. It's got some nice social commentary in it, and and of course it's got some great lines, which I'm sure we'll discuss. And that action scene, that fight scene, that's just so well loved.
One of the greatest fight scenes of all time.
Right, exactly.
I'm the longest.
Yeah. All right. So I kind of did in my head. I sort of did a brief recap of the movie. So if you want, I'll share it with people.
You could do a brief one, but it's spoilers ahead if you've not seen the film. But it's from 1988, so
right. But yeah, it's definitely spoilers. So if you haven't watched it, mute your microphone for a minute, or mute your speakers for a minute. Basically, Rowdy Roddy Piper, 80s wrestler, discovers these sunglasses that lets him see these aliens who are basically sending out messages to humanity: obey, conform, consume, things like that. Basically trying to, subliminally take over the world and slowly but surely terraforming the planet to their needs, which will be bad for humans. Rowdy Roddy Piper goes to fight them, blows up their transmitter, so that all of a sudden at the very end of the movie everybody can see the aliens, but he dies in doing so, goes out a hero. And that's pretty much what you need to know, I think, right, Phil?
That's the basics. It's as Mike said, it's got lots of different themes. Sadly, some of them are still relevant today, but that was a good summation of the film. Do you want to go first then with the ending, because I think I went first last time? Sure,
why not? Okay, so here we go. The world is in turmoil with the revelation of the aliens' existence, a human resistance. Wow, resistance altogether. That's a mouthful. A human resistance pops up immediately and begins rebelling against the controlling aliens. Curiously, they adopt the familiar phrase as their password and rallying cry. V is for victory. But at first, it seems like the tide is going towards the humans quickly, but there's a group of powerful humans called Conservicans that continue to work with the aliens. And since they are only concerned with personal profit and political gain, they decide it's better to stick with the aliens and just reap the profits for themselves and Earth be damned. But, however, the tide begins to turn. Anti-alien human forces start counter-programming the alien broadcasts, pumping out a constant stream of TV shows and movies with positive, fun, life-affirming messages. Things like Star Trek, Friends, The Goonies, Stand By Me, Toy Story, The Lion King, Pitch Perfect, Ted Lasso, Big, The Lego Movie, Paddington, and Modern Family. People love it, and everyone is instantly happier. Even internet trolls find themselves with nothing bad to say to anyone. The consistent good cheer these shows and movies engender in humanity become too much for the aliens, and they soon find their control rapidly disintegrating. Utterly defeated, the aliens leave Earth en masse, never to be heard from again. And that's the end.
Beautiful, beautiful. The power of good media.
Yeah, power of positive thinking. Power of some. So, okay. So this is obviously an after the ending. I thought it made perfect sense, and I wrote it that way. But I feel like it reflects some of my personal beliefs in that, like, I have found as I have gotten older, I tend to gravitate much more now towards things that are fun and enjoyable and lighthearted. More so, not that I never watch like dark, grim, gritty stuff or things like that, because I do. But like, if I'm going to pick something to jump into, like if I'm sitting there watching a movie at night, I'm going to always pick like a 90s action movie or a comedy or something fun rather than like a really dark drama, type of thing. I just am at that stage in my life where I just like want to have some fun, So that's kind of where that, I think I wasn't thinking about that ahead of time when I wrote that, but on reflection of it afterwards, I was like, yeah, that sounds like me. That sounds like where I'm at right now.
Fair enough. Yeah, I find it now, I still enjoy horror movies, but I find it harder watching the more gory horror films, whereas when I was younger, I was no problem. But tastes do change, but yeah, positive thinking, especially what's been going on the past year and a half.
Yeah.
I think,
go ahead, sorry.
I think we do need a few more positive, happy films. And
that's kind of how I feel.
We might discuss that more, talking about the Oscars and the BAFTAs as well.
Right. I do think that's maybe just sometimes that's what the world needs, a little bit more cheer, a little bit more happiness, a little more positivity. So that's kind of what I think I was reflecting there. It's funny you mentioned horror movies. I do still like horror movies, but I find I get much more selective about which ones I'm interested in and which ones I enjoy. I don't like the really, really dark and gory ones, though. I don't like the stuff that's just trying to get to the worst of everything. I like the ones that are either have a sense of fun to them or are just kind of intelligent and trying to do something different and unique with it. I don't mind the idea of a horror movie anymore. I find that there's got to be something to catch my attention, or else I'm not as interested. So
yeah.
But yeah, so that's my ending. There we go.
Good ending.
Thank you. Well, let's hear what you've got then.
Okay. Well, first of all, nobody realizes that Nada, Roddy Piper's character, was involved in this, or he was the one which basically kind of save the world, or did he? But with the transmitter destroyed, the aliens among us are revealed. Understandably, chaos ensues as some parts of humanity rise up and fight back, while alien sympathizers try and calm things down, and news reports, controlled by the aliens still, try to spin the situation to their favor. The aliens, used to working from the shadows, gradually lose the fight, and realizing it's no longer financially viable, they leave Earth. You'd think this would make things better. However, only then does the true chaos begin, as the financial markets go into meltdown and the whole world becomes more fragmented than it ever was. The one benefit, though, is the aliens' climate change program will gradually reverse to normal. But eventually, World War III begins, and it's just humans versus humans. But during campaigns in Leningrad and Siberia against the former Soviet alliances and the Eurasia United War Union, a special forces unit called Black Light sees major combat. And a member of this unit, a young man, Army Lieutenant Snake Plissken, ends up being the youngest man to be decorated by the US president. But the war continues and Earth falls ever more into chaos.
Nice. I like that. A little tie into the Carpenter verse, if you will. But yeah. I don't see a reason why why They Live couldn't lead into Escape from New York, right?
Because the world's gone to hell and Escape from New York, and I'm not sure the actual timeline where it's up with the years, but
right.
Wobbly kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it makes sense though, because Escape from New York is definitely somewhat in the future. So you can say that the aliens' influence and the damage they caused, sped things up to where the point when we got to Escape from New York, we never find out how things get as bad as they do in Escape from New York. So why not because of aliens and the subsequent, humanity issues? Yeah,
but that was I just thought it was a nice connection. But that's my after the ending of They Live.
I like it. A little darker than mine, but that tends to be the norm.
Yeah, that's true.
I like it. Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, but there's our ending. If you have any ideas or suggestions on how you think going after the ending of They Live would be, send us a comment or an email. We'd always like to hear from you.
Absolutely. All right, then. So there you go. That is our endings for They Live. Now let's move on to something a little more contemporary, shall we? And we are going to talk about the recent awards ceremony. Not the ceremonies themselves, but the awards. What did people, who won, who lost, what did we think? That I'm not going to give you the full breakdown of everything. You guys can look that up online. But we're going to share some opinions, perhaps.
Yes,
Phil,
but I just need to quickly switch my camera off. Technical difficulties involving my keyboard. So one moment while I dive under my desk.
Sure thing. Okay, so while Phil is doing that, what I'm going to say is this. We had the Oscars and the BAFTAs recently, and you can decide for yourself how relevant those still are. But I think we're going to talk a little bit about them, kind of just, what was good, what was bad, maybe about the awards that were given out, if we even have opinions on a lot of things. There's one or two things I specifically want to mention, but I'm not a huge Oscar follower anymore. So I like to usually just kind of read up on the results the day after and see what won and what didn't win for both the Oscars and the BAFTAs. And this year they were pretty similar. The BAFTAs do have a slightly more British flavor in that they have a Best British Film category. But other than that, it's basically just the British Film Association's version of the Oscars. So they're pretty similar. Some years they're pretty similar. Some years they're pretty different. You're back, but I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Yes.
There we go.
I was listening. It was just, just a bit of a mess there. My keyboard stopped working.
I know you did tell me right before we started filming that your keyboard was acting up. So I knew that was, when you said that, I said, well, that makes sense. So
But like you, I don't pay as much attention as to the Oscars and the BAFTAs as I used to. I used to be excited for it, but nowadays it's sort of, you wait till the next day when the results are published, and that's usually the way forward, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I don't want to get off to too harsh of a start, but I kind of blame the academies who do the voting for that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
just to start things off, my overarching opinion of this year's Oscars was that it seems like the Oscars have gotten away from rewarding films that people actually like. It's not to say that, like, here's it's kind of a fine line, right? Like, I get you want to reward the best films, the best performances and stuff like that. And I get that sometimes those are not the blockbusters, and I understand that. But I think when the Academy has had the opportunity to reward movies that were blockbusters that also have artistic merit to them, they tend to not do so anymore. And I think back to just like, I don't know, 20 years ago or so, and you had like Titanic winning awards, you had Return of the King winning awards, sweeping the Oscars, things like that. And those are movies that are both, very much appreciated, but also films that people really liked. And then I feel like it started to go downhill with things like when Avatar lost to Hurt Locker. And I know people have different opinions of Avatar, and that's fine. I'm not a huge fan of Hurt Locker. I like it, but I feel like there's no sense of rewarding films for doing something special or interesting or unique anymore, right? It's all about like the supposed kind of quality. What I mean by that is like with Avatar, James Cameron was like, hey, I'm going to create an entire 3D world out of nothing, and I'm going to make it completely believable in every sense of the word. And everyone was like, yes, you did that. It was amazing. I watched it 10 times in a row because of that. And that to me is like, that's an achievement in filmmaking, right? If you can't reward that with a best picture, like, what are you doing, right? Like Hurt Locker, whether you love it or not, it's a solid drama, but there was nothing about it to me that was like, hey, this movie is challenging the status quo of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Not that every best picture has to do that, but I feel like they've gotten, when movies do that, then they're like, nah, I don't think so. Let's go with this one. That was my big takeaway. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I quite agree, but I think it's always been the Oscars. It's like lots of award ceremonies, but particularly in the Oscars, it's often who has the biggest budget to get the what's it called? Get the ball rolling on which films, in consideration. That one, the ones who they have to have a big budget to market the film basically for the Oscars, whereas they had a big budget as well to market it to the public, but you then need a big budget to get it out there for the Oscar voting people. My words have gone funny, but that seems to be one of the big problems, and I think that's with lots of the films that end up winning. It's because they've just had the right push at the right time. And again, that's another thing, timing. When the film comes out, even when it is within the year of the Oscars, that particular year, if it comes out too early, it could get all the buzz and everything. But by the time Oscar voting comes along, it's sort of the buzz has died down, and then one which is more recent is the one which everybody's talking about. So the Academy end up voting for that one.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different factors, but I can see what you mean about Avatar. I wouldn't have said it would be Best Picture myself, but it probably did win all the awards for the technical achievement. But yeah, there's often been a disconnect between what film's been popular with the general public as opposed to what wins the Oscars.
Yeah.
Unfortunately as well, it can often be like a depressing kind of film or a more serious one, or if it deals with particular, I think, Tropic Thunder deals with it a bit as well. If you deal with particular aspects of, I don't want to use the right words, got to be careful, but if people with disability or certain problems, films dealing with that can often cause, people end up supporting that more, which is good for the what's being portrayed and helps that thing. But it often may not be the best film, but it's just that's the one which people feel they ought to vote for because of what they're dealing with.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a sense of sometimes like the academies, they vote for what they feel like they should vote for as opposed to what they want to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I feel like the past few years they've gotten further and further away from choices that I think are the right choices. Now, obviously, this is subjective opinion, right? I'm not right or wrong than anybody else, but like, you look at this year, and now I have not seen The Father. I don't know much about it, except I know Anthony Hopkins won the Academy Award. And I love Anthony Hopkins. I'm sure it's a well-deserved award,
Yeah.
Was I bummed out that Chadwick Boseman didn't get the win for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, because it was the last chance they had to award him for a great performance. It's not like it was a mediocre performance that they should have given him just because he was dead, but it was like, you know, it's like, oh, Anthony Hopkins, great actor, of course, but like kind of the safe choice, you know, like I just feel like no one's taking chances with their Oscar picks anymore, with their Oscar, you know, votes anymore. No one's trying to do something a little bit more interesting. It's kind of like, yeah, here's a safe choice. I'm going to pick that one. There's just no sense of, I don't know, excitement or danger to them anymore, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I always thought it might be good as well if they had one. If they could somehow, because I know some award ceremonies, they often have like one which is voted by the public. The BAFTA has the Rising Star one, which where a number of new actors are nominated, and then it's voted on by the general public, which I think is quite good. You could do something like that as well. So, and I think that as well would end up bringing more viewers to the Oscar ceremony itself, because year after year, I think this year was the lowest. The viewing figures have just been declining.
Yeah, well, I think part of the reason is, that because they're largely nominating films that the general public isn't that interested in seeing, right? And not saying you should ignore those films. And I know that's why they expanded the 5 best pictures to 10, because they wanted to get in more, you know, kind of crowd pleasing films. But I feel like if the Academy gave more weight to things beyond just like super serious subject matter and, you know, crazy intense performances, like there's got to be some sort of middle ground where you can take a look at a movie like Black Panther, for example, which was nominated a couple of years ago, and it can have a chance against these other films, right? It was great that Black Panther got nominated, but nobody in hell thought it really had a chance of getting a win. Do you know what I'm saying? Even though it was a great movie, right? But nobody thought like, hey, I bet Black Panther's really going to win the Oscars. No, of course not. We all knew it wasn't going to win. It's not the type of movie that gets the awards. And that's my problem is you can look at the Oscars and you can look at their Big 10 picks or whatever, and you can automatically say this movie's not going to win because it's not the type of movie the Oscars, award. And that's a problem to me, because it shouldn't be based on what kind of movie it is. It should be based on the movie itself, right? But because it's a superhero movie or an action film or things like that, like there are action movies that are maybe not as deep or as, you know, important a subject matter as some of these heavy dramas, but in their own right for their genre are just as good, you know, great filmmaking. I think that's maybe what I would like to see as more genres represented in maybe categories, right? You know, best drama picture, best, like kind of more like the Golden Globes do, right? Best comedy, best action movie. Like, why can't we have an Oscar for the best action film? Because there are action movies that are like works of art. Like Black Panther in best action movie would have been a shoo-in, right? Why can't Avengers Endgame get nominated? Like, which, you know, I think is this amazing film that does so many things right. Like, because it's not the kind of movie. So put it in the action category, you know, give us a comedy category, give us a drama category. And at least then these other types of films have a chance to get some kind of recognition from this, you know, the Academy. And then people might come to the, you know, show up for the TV broadcast as well.
Yeah, I think one of the problems as well is that maybe the Academy voters, they feel if they do vote for one of these films, which isn't important in some way, then they might feel it's going to devalue the whole award itself. I mean,
right. Some would argue the plummeting, you know, viewership is also devaluing the award, you know, like if nobody watches and cares anymore, what, you know, at what point has it lost some of its value, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I'm sure some of it as well is because it's all had to be done in the, you know, lockdown conditions or on using Zoom and things like that. That's going to have an impact. But the way it was going anyway before that, there's been this steady decline, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. There has been almost every year for the last 10 years. It's been going downhill. So getting away from that a little bit, Phil, let's talk about some of the actual awards. Were there any that stood out for you that you were happy to see? Let's talk about our kind of winners and losers, if you will. First, we'll start with what were the awards that you were happy to see or that you agreed with, or is there anything that stood out for you in that respect?
Well, I was glad that Sound of Metal won the. I can't remember what it did win now. I'm sorry. It did win.
It won.
Oh yeah, it won. Anyway, it won some awards. So, but I was glad that did because Riz Ahmed is good. This one was actually dealing with, you know, something important. A person went deaf in the film, and it wasn't just. It was a good story, well acted. Kind of a small film as well, but the main thing was the sound editing and the sound.
The sound design.
The sound design, that's the word, yeah. The way that was done, it was absolutely brilliant and really put you in Riz Ahmed's character place. That was really good. So I was glad
Yeah,
to see that.
it won Best Sound at both the Oscars and the BAFTAs, so that was definitely a win.
Yeah.
Good.
What else? There was also My Octopus Teacher as well, the documentary. I quite like that. That was good. That's currently streaming on Netflix. It was all. It's always. I think more and more as well as I'm getting older. I think I'm enjoying feature documentaries more, and it's always nice to see that. And it's also, I like the one thing I do like about the award ceremonies is when you see the nominees and then you suddenly go, "Oh, I've not heard of that one. What's that?" And then you can check it out and it takes you on a journey into other films. There was another round, the Thomas Vinterberg film with Mads Mikkelsen, which was a good one. Also, really quite a sad story because during filming, the director, his daughter passed away. So he was talking about that in one of the awards. I've not seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, so I can't comment on Chadwick Boseman's performance. What else? Nomadland as well. I've still not seen that either, even though it's now on my list. But it's only just come onto Disney Plus, so I can now watch that. But I do like Frances McDormand. I get the impression it's a bit like Into the Wild, which is a favourite of mine. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, especially because director Chloe Zhao is directing Marvel's The Eternal. So that's going to be kind of cool that an Oscar-winning director is now directing that one. But yeah, on the whole, it's pretty good as well. And what else? Oh, yeah, I've also not seen The Father, so I can't comment on Anthony Hopkins, but he's usually pretty good anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have a comment based on you mentioning The Octopus Teacher, which I have not seen yet, but I want to, from Christine F. She says, loved The Octopus Teacher. So there you go, Phil. So somebody out there agrees with you. And
very much,
I've heard good things about it. I've heard very good things about it. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I like all the nature documentaries, but this was a good one. What I was surprised, though, personally, that Soul won Best Animated Feature Film in the Oscars, because I just didn't think that was as good as previous Pixar films. And I would have. What else was nominated? I would have thought. Well, I personally preferred Onward, which out of all of them, because it was that was a good fun story, but also because I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons nerd anyway. So
right.
But what about you? What did you like about the award winners?
I mean, not a lot, to be honest with you. Although, admittedly, I haven't seen many of the films, but there was just not a lot of choices that I found particularly inspiring. I was happy to see Chloe Zhao win for Nomadland, just because I thought, I was like to see ground being broken and, being the first Asian American to win. I thought that was great. I was extremely happy to see Promising Young Woman do so well. I love Promising Young Woman. It was my second favorite, or my number 2 film of last year. I think it won.
We spoke about that in the last episode, didn't we? Yeah.
What's that?
We spoke about that in the last episode, didn't we?
We did, yeah. It won for Best Screenplay. It was nominated for Best Actress, nominated for Best Film, which I was really surprised that it got that nomination. Just because it didn't. I don't know. There's something about it that didn't make me think, hey, it's probably going to be nominated for Best Picture, but it did. Yeah. I really liked. So I was very glad about that. Getting, and also got Outstanding British Film from the BAFTAs, which I really liked.
That's right, yeah.
Because people maybe not realize, of course, Emerald Fennell, the writer and director, being British, but also Carey Mulligan, who plays an American in the film, flawlessly, but she's also British. So
yeah. Always lots of British actors in these things.
Yeah. So that was good to see. That was really the big standout for me.
What did you think of Mank? That was another one of the Best Picture nominees, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I've heard good things. My in-laws loved it, but I have not had a chance to see it yet. So
I watched it. I like the styling of it, I think, more than the actual story. Even I'm a big Citizen Kane fan. People who don't know about Mank, it's all about the screenwriter of Citizen Kane and what was going on behind the scenes. Yeah, but I did like it, but I was a bit surprised that it was one of the nominee, the Best Picture nominees.
Emmys, right? Too. It got a fair amount of nominations.
Yeah.
Were there any things that you thought got, I hate to use the word snubbed, but any things that you think should have been nominated that weren't?
That's a hard one for the 2020, for the films of the last year, because of the lockdown and everything. My sense of time and place is all, so it's hard to think what films were actually within the Oscar voting window.
Right. Well, I'll tell you while you're thinking about it, I'll tell you the one
yeah.
that's out for me. It was my number one film of last year was Let Him Go. And, you could make an argument that maybe, if you wanted to say, hey, not Best Picture, fine. I mean, I disagree, but I'll let it go. But the fact that Diane Lane did not get nominated for her performance in Let Him Go, to me, is a complete and utter travesty. Because to me, she was hands down the best performance I've seen in years, much less just in 2020. It was such a nuanced performance where she just goes through every emotion in the book, and often without dialogue. You just see it on her face, and some of her expressions could break your heart, and other ones, would have you, terrified for her. And I just thought it was a masterclass of acting in a 2 hours time stretch. You know what I mean? Like, just one of those performances for the ages. And she didn't get nominated, which just blew me away, because I don't understand it. So that to me was the really big oversight. That if she doesn't win, that's one thing I still would disagree with it. But not even getting nominated, I don't understand it. It's not only is a great film, but her performance was just unbelievable. I challenge anybody to watch that movie and not find her performance completely captivating.
Yeah, I think that's a film which has flown under lots of people's radar.
It definitely did, and I get that, but I still don't understand how her performance got past people. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, that's the way, isn't it? There's all these Oscars, well, any award ceremony, there's always going to be some which you go, that should have been nominated, that should have got there, but we just have to go with what we go with. It's going to be interesting to see next year's Oscars. Especially
I think it's pretty obvious the front runner is Kong versus Godzilla. That's Godzilla versus.
I wasn't even going to mention it because it is so obvious.
Clearly, it's going to be. Well, maybe it'll have some competition from Mortal Kombat, but I think the Best Picture is pretty much a lock. So,
and Godzilla's Kong's bound to win Best Actor.
Yeah, I think he takes the edge over Godzilla. Godzilla will probably get a nomination, but I think Kong's going to take it. So,
we did talk about both those films a few episodes ago as well. So
if you want to hear our full opinions on those two movies, check out our last main feature episode where we discussed whether or not Hollywood should make better films. So with that plug, I think we'll wrap things up for this episode. We're at about our half-hour mark. If you are watching live, we're going to wrap this episode up and be back in just a few minutes with our post-credits sequence episode, where we'll do a top 5 list and our ATE recommends. If you are watching or listening not live, then you'll have another episode coming very soon, depending on when you're engaging with this episode. So, we'll be back real shortly, though. So, Phil, anything you want to
add? No, I think we've covered everything for this episode, but we will see you after the break.
Yes.
Or whenever you could click play on the next episode.
Exactly. All right. So as always, we thank you greatly for listening. I'm Mike Spring.
And I'm Phil Edwards.
And we'll see you next time.
After the ending.